Okay, this is the Black Nation of Israel coming back with another video. In this segment, of the video, I will be discussing the two great commandments of Christ. And it is two great commandments. It's a mystery. Let's go to Matthew chapter 22, verse 34. Matthew 22, verse 34. But when the Pharisees had heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence, talking about Christ, he put the Sadducees to silence. They were gathered together. The Sadducees was one of the groups, besides the Pharisees, who believed in the Old Covenant. They believed in the Old Covenant, the law of Moses, but they didn't believe in the resurrection like the Pharisees did. Both the Pharisees and the Sadducees believed in the law of Moses, and they rejected Christ. But when the Pharisees had heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence, they were gathered together. And when you read that verse, it shows you that Christ was very strong in the word. He was very strong. He was an intelligent man. He put people to shame in the word and put them to silence. He was strong and very powerful in the word. Verse 35. Then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him, and saying, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Christ said unto him, Thou shalt love thy Elohim with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. This is how I know the word is talking about Hebrew Israelites of Negroid descent, because we don't love each other. We're the only people that don't get along with each other on this planet. Now, it is true that other races of people have problems too, but not like ours, not like us. We're the only people who can't get along with each other. And even now today, it has gotten worse, where now a lot of people who, if you move into an apartment complex, you might be living next door to some of your neighbors of your race who you can't get along with, and you try to reason with them, but they never want to get along with you. They selling drugs, or they raising their children to be thugs and gangsters, and here you is, we trying to live in peace like regular folks, like a regular family or individual do, and your neighbors is making noise. So it's like a conflict, and it's a never-ending conflict. I see it happening in the neighborhoods of Black Americans. I have witnessed it. And, we can't get along with each other. The Black women is just as bad as the men is. They are bringing these drug dealers into their apartments and allowing them to sell drugs so they could make money. And meanwhile, a regular person who goes to work every day that lives next door to them is suffering behind that. Suffering. And then when we complain about the noise, they want to sick the dudes out to fight you, to jack you. This is what's happening in the hood. This is what's happening in the neighborhoods of black neighborhoods of America. The good men who go to work every day is suffering behind black gang, is suffering because of the next door drug dealer, the next door wannabe thug who doesn't go to work at all. Okay, but that's I just had to put that in the video because this is related to what this scripture is. It says, and the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And this is really needed in among our people. This is really needed. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And on these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. See, if we do this, if we love our neighbor as thyself, we wouldn't do no harm to any of our people. No harm to any of our people. And Christ knew this. This is what he was bringing to Israel. This is what he brought to Israel right here. These are his commandments. To love the Father with all our heart and to love our neighbor as ourselves. If you do these two, you fulfill the whole law. That's what he was saying. Okay, let's jump to Galatians chapter 5, verse 14 and 15. Galatians chapter 5, verse 14 and 15. It says, for all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There it is again. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Again, you go into the black ghettos and the hoods of America, the black hoods, the neighborhoods of America, and you see one black family pitted against another black family, or one class group pitted against another class group. The working class is separated from the gang mentality. The gang mentality is put over a man who worked in the black neighborhood, and there's no love there, no love at all. You see what's going on? This is what's going on in our neighborhood. For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Verse 15, but if ye bite and devour one another, take heed that ye be not consumed one of another. You see that? See, this is how I know that the New Testament was written for the Negro race of Hebrew descent first, before it was written to the other nations. Because we fit this description here. In verse 15, we biting one another, devouring one another. Who's doing this? Most of the African American Negroes. The other races have problems too, but they're not doing. They don't have problems like we have. We fulfilled this scripture perfectly. We are biting and devouring one another, and this is how I know the New Testament was written for our people. First, to the Jew first, and then to the Greek. You see the mystery in the scriptures here? Yes. The whole Bible is an Israelite book. And Christ came and told us to love one another. If you love one another, ye fulfill the whole law. You wouldn't steal. You wouldn't commit adultery. You wouldn't even commit adultery if you love your neighbor as yourself and love the Father from a sincere heart. You wouldn't do anything. You wouldn't commit murder, you wouldn't kill, you wouldn't commit adultery, fornication, you wouldn't covet your neighbor's wife or nothing. See, you're fulfilling the law when you do these. The 2 commandments of Christ. Okay, now Matthew chapter 7, verse 12. Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you. This is Christ speaking. Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. You see that? Christ was saying that this is what the prophets taught, because they knew that Christ was coming. The old covenant, the law of Moses, was a shadow of things to come. They knew that Christ was coming. They knew, the prophets of the old covenant knew, of the Old Testament knew that Christ was coming. Don't let no one fool you. Whoever, to the remnant who is listening to this video, don't let no old Torah only Hebrew Israelite fool you into rejecting the New Testament. They are lying to you. They are not spiritually adept. They have not arrived spiritually at all. It says, therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. That means that if you treat someone else like you want to be treated. See, this fulfills the whole law. You treat your neighbor, your brother, or your sister in the nation how you want to be treated. And you wouldn't commit harm to that other person. That's fulfilling the whole law right there. You see. Okay, this is the end of the video. I hope you have learned and got benefited from this. Okay, this is the end, coming to the end of the time of the video. Shalom.